Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Thinking About DFS Week 7. Davis, Mattek, and Jakob Sanderson with you. We're recording this on Friday, not on Thursday. You got the Rich Rebar video early. Hey, maybe this video will do great on Friday, and maybe we will call an audible, and Rich and I will do it on Thursday. Hard to say what the YouTube algorithm is going to do. Jakob, it is a beautiful DFS slate. I mean, really, it kind of has a little bit of everything. The one thing we're missing is value starting running back, but maybe you could argue that makes it better. But there's a lot going on here to like.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute fun DFS slate. Give you a time, a lot of optionality, and still a little bit of unknowns right now, even as we sit here on Friday morning with some running back injuries, but excited to wade through all that this week.
Nothing to write home about for me in week 7. I mean, I got it some of the right. Basically just played no Chris Godwin, like had some of the right combinations, had some of the right pieces. But if you did not have Chris Godwin or Baker Mayfield, there was nothing to write home about. What about you?
I dragged Calvin Ridley's useless ass to the min cash line in the SPY this week. And that, let me tell you, it was a Herculean effort to do that.
Really?
There's no dumber feeling than like watching your own Indianapolis Colts, having played Calvin Ridley in the SPY, watching him just vomit all over himself for 3 hours and being like, why is this my life? Like, why am I rooting for this horrible football player to put up catches on a game-tying drive against the team that I love? Why haven't I made other choices to this point? But yeah, I played a Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown stack that looked really fun early before Ridley said, not going to happen, buddy.
AJ Brown pretty close to breaking this late. Had he scored on that final 40-yard catch instead of going down, I think he would have been, I don't know, I can't do the math up. I think he would have been like 3 or 4 points short of Godwin, but still a very good play. Actually, good transition as we head into the first game, because the first game features the aforementioned Calvin Ridley. It is the Buffalo Bills, team total of 25.5 against the Tennessee Titans. To be honest, I'm interested in one player in this game. Not an Amari Cooper guy. Definitely not playing any Titans pass catcher. Pretty over Dalton Kincaid. Pretty over the Dalton Kincaid experience as a whole.
Buddy, you have to keep the good vibes going on our locker room, man. I'm like, talk about great things that happened last night. I mean, my bid adjustment to go aggressive on the Broncos defense, legendary upside for the Denver Broncos defense last night. But you got to stop talking Dalton Kincaid. He's a crucial piece of our prime.
He is a crucial piece.
I will continue to love and support him. He won us a week by 0.1. I'm not going to play him this week though. That's ridiculous. This is Tony Pollard or bust.
Tony Pollard, and so there's an interesting thing where I wonder if Mr. Pollard right now, it's a Friday, RG has him projected for 22% ownership. I wonder if that's a bit high because Aaron Jones is probably going to play. A little bit of ownership is going to siphon off to like Jordan Mason, Kareem Hunt types, guys who are projected very low owned, but are going to get some. And also, how many people are going to want to hand click Tony Pollard? Like that's kind of like an opto bro only thing. But the Bills, other than that game against the Jaguars, they've given me very little confidence that they are a blow this team out. Like what happened to Alvin Kamara on Thursday night, I don't know if that can happen to Tony Pollard because I don't know if the Bills can hang 30 on anyone, right? I mean, I guess they could if Levis really does play that bad. But if this game ends 28-17, Pollard still probably got 21 touches in that game.
Yeah, he's going to play. They played Julius Chestnut 3 snaps. Without Tyjae Spears, Pollard's going to play 90+% of snaps for as long as the game is competitive. So if the Titans can keep this reasonably close, they're going to run the offense through Pollard. It just depends if they don't. The one interesting play, I think, from the other side for me would be James Cook, who practiced in full yesterday.
Yeah.
Ray Davis added to the injury report now with a calf issue. And he is going to be potentially interesting where, are people going to be skittish of playing him first week back off of the injury? Maybe if Ravis Davis even plays. We've seen him have really, really high upside this season. And if you do want to kind of fade Tony Pollard being a major relevant piece, probably
Which
the way that
is
happens
justifiable.
is the Bills blow them the hell out, and then James Cook probably has a pretty good day.
Yeah, because like we do know how Tony Pollard fails, which is just like Will Levis starts out the game. He takes a sack on each of the first 3 drives. He throws an interception on the 4th drive. Josh Allen and the Bills don't even play that well, but it's halftime and it's 17-3. And whatever role they're like Pollard. The thing about playing with Levis is there's
like
not
the
even
Green
really
Bay
checkdowns.
game for the Titans is like I think Pollard had like 6 carries and it just nothing mattered. Yeah.
So again, I do think that is going to feed into Pollard being a little bit lower owned than this. I put Pollard more at like 15% than 20% if I was doing this manually, but we don't really need to talk about that game. There are much better games to get to. Actually, this one right here, I mean, this is whatever you do with this game is pretty much going to decide how much money you win. Seattle traveling east team, a Western team traveling east. Seattle team total of 24, Atlanta team total of 27. I mean, I don't know. There are like 11 playable guys in Seattle, Atlanta. It's an extremely good game. What are your high level thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting spot. The Seattle defense has been quite bad this year. I think due to some just personnel issues, maybe Mike McDonald's scheme is taking a little bit of a while to teach. But specifically, they've been just getting torched repeatedly for big plays over the middle of the field, kind of whatever. It doesn't even really matter. I think with Atlanta, like the Tyler Algier Bijan split was kind of interesting last week, where Algier actually winds up getting more rushes, getting more yards. If you watch the game, it was like both true and not true that Tyler Algier was annoying. Where, Bijan gets the first 2 goal to go sequences, scores on both of those. He was the clear lead in, I think it was like 13 carries to 8 and 4 targets to 1 before Algier went on a 10-2 finish to close out the game in the 4th quarter, I think is what the numbers were. So, it's not like it was a 50-50. Bijan was the clear lead guy while the game was in doubt, but not, the clear lead to the point where it was like 16-3, right? It was still 13-8, so it's still a little bit less than ideal. At 7.1, he gets the upgrade in price from last week. Also, I'm still very interested. It's probably not going to be quite as much of a lock button for me as it was last week.
See, I'm not as interested, honestly. Like, I just basically think Bijan is a pretty good play in the 6,000s in games that I expect Atlanta to like win and kind of handle. But the passing game usage has not been what I expected. Like, I kind of expected Bijan to be his calling card, kind of Kamara-esque maybe, where like Bijan is just getting 4.5 targets every game, like for the entirety of his career. And that really has not been how either coaching staff has used him. I don't know why. I think it's misguided.
Well,
I think
kind of was how the
last
staff used him. He had like 80 targets last year.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was going to come in and be that at the start of this year. Like he was getting targeted a ton in the first 2 games, the Pittsburgh and Philly games. And then it's really gone downhill with that. I think some of it is the Rams stuff carrying over. Like they throw to him on scheme stuff a decent amount. Like they toss him screens. They do these swing passes. Sometimes the swing passes they do to him go backwards, which is really tilting because then they count as rushes. I feel like it's been at least 3 or 4 times I've watched them throw the ball to him like 1 yard backwards. But what they don't do is check the ball down to him. Like it seems like it's that kind of Rams thing where like, Kyron Williams was a great pass catcher in college. He never gets checkdowns. It doesn't happen. Darrell Henderson never got checked. None of those Rams running backs ever have gotten checkdowns really since maybe like Todd Gurley. And it seems like a lot of that is carried over to Bijan Robinson, where if they don't dial up a screen, he's not getting a reception, which is tough because I would have hoped, like, even knowing how this split works with Algier, ideally, the perfect Bijan Robinson game script would be like a game that they're down by 1 possession for the whole game, right? Like they still are in it enough that they're going to run the ball sometimes, but they're chasing points. So they need to have Bijan on the field as they're passing down back, not Algier. And he's accumulating 6-7 receptions in comeback mode. That would have been like what I would have
100%.
thought coming into the year. But we get basically that game against Tampa Bay, right? They uncork it 58 times and Bijan had like 3 receptions. Just not good enough. So interested in him, but 21% is probably a little steep for me. I'm fascinated that like a guy like a Darnell Mooney is, not nearly his own this week at pretty much the same price he was last week in another really good matchup.
And it wasn't like the
They probably
usage
have to
was
throw
bad.
a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just seems like one of those classic spots where everybody was like, oh, that was cool last week, and now it's not, but like for no particular reason.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, McLeod even, like, this is a slate that has like less value. Like Juju Smith-Schuster at $4,000 is going to get owned. That game is like
Jalen Coker is going to get owned this week.
Yeah, like 70% of the time, Kansas City, San Francisco is a terrible game with like 29 completed passes between the two teams. Whereas, like this game, it's funny, like how Tampa Bay, New Orleans was like still on red zone when the afternoon games were like well going because the teams just kept scoring points. That could totally be this game. Like this game could end 42-38 pretty convincingly. I mean, obviously, I'm hoping that for fantasy. My preferred way to play this game is actually not through the running backs, Bijan and Walker. Now, Walker obviously is just like an incredible play. He's getting passing usage. He's got a 14% target share the last 2 weeks. You guys don't need me to talk down to you about Kenneth Walker. I think the more interesting thing is, do you double stack if you're using these quarterbacks, and do you use a bring back? Like Geno, Metcalf, Fant with Drake London is like, man, that is pretty fucking hot. And Kirk and Mooney,
Absolutely.
Kirk and London. I mean, don't make me say it, man, but Kyle Pitts, eventually he will score on one of these 60-yard bombs.
A little bit alive the last couple of weeks.
He is a little bit alive. Yeah, I mean, this game is just awesome. I would say if I could only play one lineup this week, you said, Davis, you can play one lineup in the SPY, it would be probably a Geno double stack with one of the Falcons guys coming back. I think that would be my in the Davis Mattek Sims, that would be the most preferred option, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good take. Yeah, it would be. I think I don't even know which way I would play it, but it would be one of the quarterbacks doubled with one of the other pass catchers, I think. Yeah,
I got no issue with that. All right, another game that should be not really that interesting. The Cincinnati Bengals with a team total of 23.5. The Cleveland Browns with a team total of 18. I mean, I'd love to do. I'd love to get a Joey B double going, but it's going to be unnecessary. I think we saw on Monday night that game against the Giants. They're not interested in style points. They just need wins. They just need some gosh darn wins, and they're probably going to get one here. No Amari Cooper. Could not make me interested in playing Jerry Jeudy. The projections can project whatever they want. I'm not. If I was going to play a Brown, it would be David Njoku, who is priced at $4,100 DraftKings dollars. But the actual interesting name here, I mean, is Chase Brown, because if Chase Brown gets 65% of the rushes in a spot that the Bengals can win, I mean, I'm pretty into that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Those to me are the two names. It's Chase Brown for the Bengals side. It's David Njoku for the Brown side. The fumble stuff, I think people are over exaggerating how much of the Chase Brown usage was to do with the fumble. He already had more carries and targets at the time that Zach Moss fumbled. He started the game, which he hasn't ever started the game before. And then, he gapped him by more after the fumble for sure. Yeah. But then Chase Brown, of course, loses his own fumble late in the game that miraculously goes harmlessly out of bounds. 2-minute warning hits. Bengals have all the time in the world to think about what they want to do. They decide, Chase Brown, you're the one that's going to go right back on the field right after he fumbled. He scores the game-winning touchdown or game-sealing touchdown. I think he's their guy. I think you can realistically project a somewhere between a 65 to 70% touch share this week, with Zach Moss primarily playing like long. He's basically like the Brian Robinson Austin Eckler split, except Zach Moss isn't there to catch passes. He's there to block people. But like in terms of what snaps they play, that's kind of going to be, I think, the allocation where it's like 70% Brown on the early downs. Moss is going to mix in, and he's going to play primarily on 3rd and 9.
Yeah. And there's such condensed chalk at running back this week that this projected ownership of 12.5% or whatever on Chase Brown is so high. It's going to be more like 7, 8, 9%, like at the max, because Aaron Jones is going to be like 27%. Pollard is going to be super owned. Ken Walker is going to be super owned. And I suppose the other interesting element here is Jamar Chase is up against this pathetic team. But because Justin Jefferson is projected like 9 points better and he's $100 more, this will actually be the first week Justin Jefferson is going to be owned, which I suppose is sort of interesting. But you could definitely talk. I mean, I would not do this with my own money, but conceptually, you could tell me that you would prefer to play Chase over Jefferson just based on the ownership discount. I don't think it's good, but you could do it if you wanted.
I mean, I basically did this last week in the spot. Like I played AJ Brown instead of CeeDee Lamb in the game that AJ Brown was against the Cleveland Browns because I thought he was going to come in very under-owned, and he did. He was like 8%, I think, in the SPY, and CeeDee was up over 30. So I certainly see the vision for the play. I don't think I'll do it this week, just because I just think I like the Jefferson spot more, even though it's the same spot as CeeDee Lamb. I just trust Justin Jefferson and KOC more, and I think I see less fragility to it than I did with Lamb. And I also just don't really want to play Burrow. Like with Hurts, I was pretty interested because he can get there even in blowout wins with his rushing. And so I figured, all right, one big AJ Brown touchdown, Hurts gets there with some rushing, we can cook. I'm not going to play Burrow. So am I going to do a Chase one-off? I think a little less tempted. So I'll probably not be doing that this week, but I totally see the vision for the play.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. This game, the Houston Texans traveling to play at Green Bay, 22.5 point team total for the Texans, 25.5 for the Packers. This is probably the game I have the most interest in relative to the field, because if something wonky happens early, let's say the Packers get up 10-0 early, let's say CJ Stroud gets strip sacked early, this could become a total shootout because the Texans are negative PROE, they're also negative expected run rate because they keep winning these games. Bobby Slowick loves to run on first down. He loves to run on second down, but obviously it's just not nearly as realistic down to the Packers. The Packers are plus PROE if you strip out the Malik Willis stuff. They want to pass the ball. The Wicks might even play this week after having to shoulder. Like, they might have all their guys. They might have all their guys other than Luke Musgrave, which is like, who cares at this point?
One of their guys.
Yeah, not one of their guys. So we've got like unowned, no one cares, Jordan Love. Super unowned, no one cares, CJ Stroud. Unowned Diggs. Relatively unowned Jaden Reed relative to what he's been owned in other slates. No one wants to play Tank Dell despite earning the most targets on the team last week. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Schultz. 8 targets for Dalton Schultz last week against the Patriots with Nico Collins out. They did not, this is true, they did not target another wide receiver other than Diggs and Dell. Mechie and Hutchinson, bagels, no targets. They played a third tackle 24% of their snaps against the Patriots. If this goes, if you told me CJ Stroud throws 36 times in this game, I'm like all in on this game, because this could be the duel, right? This could be the young quarterbacks throwing haymakers game.
This was my preseason Super Bowl predictions, Packers Texans. So I'm pumped for this game. I agree with everything that you said. I'm crazy for me to say, but like from a DFS perspective only, I'm kind of hoping Wicks doesn't play just because it would make the Packers double stack far easier. And I still don't think they're going to get that owned. Like I'm not that afraid that Wicks being out is going to send Dobbs and Watson's ownership particularly high. I just think there's a pretty hard ceiling on those guys. So I would go so far as to say that, especially if Wicks doesn't play, I think every lineup I make might just be different iterations of Love +2 and Stroud +2. I think Schultz is, to me, like he's the best tight end play on the slate for me. He's going to be sitting there with a 2% projected ownership in this spot with the big total, where he's going to run all the routes. He got 8 targets last week. Like I think that's, people are kind of underestimating how meaningful of a removal Nico Collins is for him. You're staring at the Diggs and Dell ownership right now, both projected under 10. I bet those get steamed up to at least around 10, but they're just not going to project quite well enough, I think, to get beyond that. Easily doubleable if you get the massive CJ Stroud blow-up game like we got a couple of last year. And of course, we know what Jordan Love can do. So I agree with you. I'm very, very pumped to play this spot. I think it has 60-plus point potential if the game breaks the right way. And I also agree with you that I think the way that has to break is probably going to be with the Green Bay Packers getting ahead early on. Because
if Joe Mixon rips off a 33-yard touchdown run in the first quarter, your lineups are dead. Your CJ Stroud lineup is dead. Your Jordan Love lineup, obviously, your Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft lineup can totally still get there. But if you are including any Texan in that, you sadly are the rake payer, because the Texans would love to give Joe Mixon 23 rushes for 87 yards in this game. That would fill them. It's so bizarre to have CJ Stroud, to have Diggs, to have Dell, and be like, you know what, we're building this team around? A guy who got waived, but we traded a 7th round pick so that we didn't have to claim him on waivers. We just and then extend him. Yeah, just very bizarre, but it's pretty clearly what they're doing. And honestly, Mixon himself, maybe he's the bring back. Maybe if you want to do Love and Reed, maybe Mixon is the bring back, because this 11% projected ownership on RG, that seems high, because that's just all going to Ken Walker. That's all going to Ken Walker.
Yeah, I think if I was to do like 5 lineups this week, they might all be this game, and I would probably do like 2. Well, I would probably do every iteration of the CJ Stroud double. So I would do Stroud, Dell, Diggs, Stroud, Dell, Schultz, Stroud, Diggs, Schultz, and then I would do 1 Love double with Mixon and 1 Love double with either Diggs or Dell.
That seems totally reasonable to me. If I had to rank it in order of preference, I would say top preference, Stroud, Dell, Schultz, just cost wise. And the you just make up so much at tight end. Like, if you told me Schultz gets 8 targets in this game, I'm like lock buttoning him here. And Jaden Reed, I again, this is 14% is a fake ownership projection on Jaden Reed. He will not top 10%. I'd be stunned actually if he did.
Yeah, I think if I had to play it one way right now, it would be Stroud, Dell. I think I agree with you almost. Yeah, Stroud, Dell, Schultz, Reed, I think would be my one lineup. If I was doing it from the other side, I would probably be Stroud, Reed. Either Stroud, Reed, Watson, Schultz, or Stroud, Reed, Kraft, Dell.
Got no, I mean, really any of those iterations. I have no issue. This I think this will be my Super Bowl this week. Honestly, nutted outcome, CJ Stroud pick 6 first play. I mean, just like the Vikings game, almost exactly like the Vikings game, except instead of giving up, the Texans get there. That would be pretty.
Do the Jameis. Start it off with a pick 6.
Yeah.
Get yourself going.
A game that, 6 weeks ago, we would have been pretty excited about the Miami Dolphins traveling to play the Indianapolis Colts in the Dome. Couldn't really be. I suppose we were excited for the Indianapolis Colts to get a win. The question I have for you, Jacob, is my IKB play of the week is I'm going to do at least one Anthony Richardson team. My read is that actually without Taylor, his rushing touchdown expectation should be increased.
Oh, certainly.
So it's like this terrible run defense, be very hard for me to imagine Richardson playing so bad that they can't win this game. Steichen, please have something drawn up. Like, can we get Anthony? I guess the funny thing is you're like, oh, Richardson should just run 16 times in this game. He should just play like Justin Fields did. Like we should see a Justin Fields game. The issue is he doesn't do it. They don't like to, like, it's like he doesn't scramble. So that has to be called design runs. But would Steichen be hesitant to call designed runs after he leaves a game and misses 2 weeks because he can't stop himself from getting hurt? You got to talk me through this one.
So I definitely think Richardson is interesting. First off, his quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers was easily the best played quarter of his career. I'm not saying he turned a corner, but the last time we saw him on the field, he looked quite good. This Miami defense is not good. They're playing indoors. I think that he is very, very, very playable. It's like possibly even a better spot than it was like week 1 when he was the most owned quarterback on the slate. I think he's cheaper than he was then. And I don't think that much has happened. Like we saw one brilliant game from him. We saw a couple not very good games from him. Then we saw one brilliant quarter from him. It's like, I don't know that we're actually in that different of a place than we were at the beginning of the season with Anthony Richardson. So I think it's worth taking shots. I'm gonna do, I guess the exact same stupid Calvin Ridley thing I did last week, but I will be playing like a bucket of Jalen Waddle this week, even with Snoop Huntley.
You can't. This is not good, man. The
Indianapolis Colts,
brother.
Give it up.
I'm trying to save you from yourself right now.
No, man, I'm doing it. I'm doing it this week. This is gonna be. I think you can. I'm going to talk myself into like a Tyler Huntley double stack by the end of this week.
No, dude. Oh my God. You have strayed so far from God's light.
I just don't buy these projections. Like, Huntley was really bad in his first start when he was like a week and a half onto the team without any understanding of how the offense worked. He looked far better against the New England Patriots. Like, they had a reasonably functional adjacent offense. They just couldn't play special teams, which is why they didn't break that game open. Now they get a bye week, and then they get this spot against the Colts where if they can get a win, their season is like fully back on the rails. I think there's a decent chance Miami puts up like 24 to 27 points in this spot, and all these Dolphins are really underpriced. Waddle's probably the only one that I'll actually get to, but I think you could make an argument for Achane. Hill's probably too expensive, but I'm tempted. The other IKB take that I have is, see those Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson projections? Just swap them. Because like, I've never seen a running back play as badly as I saw Trey Sermon play this Sunday. 18 carries for 29 yards, and it felt worse. Like just a slow guy out there on the field.
I mean, the only reason
on his back.
The only reason he even got there the week before was that he got the dump offs, and the dump offs are now sent to zero. There will be no dump. Well, if there are dump offs, they probably won't be completed because it will be Anthony Richardson throwing them. So you can take PPR scam out of the dictionary definition for Trey Sermon.
There was a goal line sequence where Tyler Goodson he just also played a lot more last week, and he just looked way better, and he played more as the game went on because I think Steichen started to realize that, like, okay, I've been calling it like the worst possible version of Zach Moss, Chase Brown, where it's like you have one running back who's like theoretically reliable, but he just can't play football. And then Tyler Goodson is what the haters think Chase Brown is, which is he's very fast, but he's literally blind. He just runs straight into linebackers all the time. But I think Steichen realized, like, I'll take blind but fast over can't run 1 yard. There was a sequence where Goodson took them down to the 1, and then Sermon comes in on 2nd and goal, and he loses 1. And then they give it to him again on 3rd and goal, and he loses 2. And they just kick the field goal from the 4-yard line. And I was losing my mind. But like that, and they were down 7 at this point. Like that's how bad it got for my guy Trey Sermon. I think it's Joe for him. So I think Goodson is playable.
It's crazy that there are so many,
even though it's AR.
There are so many good running backs in the world. Like, You're telling me Bo Scarborough couldn't do a better job running the ball than Trey Sermon? Like, it is crazy. Like, you're telling me the guy, Javian Feaster, who had more rushing yards than Rico Dowdle his final year at South Carolina, who's now the manager of a regional Coca-Cola distributor per LinkedIn. You're telling me that guy couldn't be better than Trey Sermon? I honestly don't believe it.
What's Donnell Pumphrey up to these days?
What's Donnell Pumphrey up to? Yeah, come on. You're telling me Donnell Pumphrey's not better than Trey? Cody Schrader. You're telling me Cody Schrader couldn't get claimed off the Rams practice squad
I'm
right
sure
now?
Evan Hull is better than Trey Sermon, and he's on the squad right now. Like, I can't watch this guy anymore. So maybe Goodson. And then again, Josh Downs has like over 30% targets per out run this season. I understand it's Anthony Richardson, but at 5.7K, you're telling me you can get a guy that projects somewhat reasonably for a 30% target share? Like, I'm interested in that. They've been building this thing around him with Joe Flacco in there. So I think there's a lot of decent plays in this game, but I understand if people don't want to touch it.
I mean, we just did that whole thing, and we didn't actually mention the one guy who could break the slate in this game, which is Devon Achane, who, so he's had what? Now he's had 17 days to recover from the ankle injury.
Yeah.
He has practiced in full from the concussion. I think we did see pretty convincing evidence from the preceding weeks that Mike McDaniel pretty greatly prefers him to Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert, particularly. Basically feels like he's coaching kind of for his job right now. Like, I know he's going to get Tua back, but it's like he really. I mean, he has just been exposed without Tua, and I'm not saying it should be that easy to reconfigure an entire offense that's so intricate and based on timing, and like Tua knows how to get the ball where Waddle likes, yada yada, so on and so forth. But like Matt LaFleur did just like build an entire offense out of Malik Willis, who'd been on his team for 3 weeks. Like, I just don't. I'm not really trying to give Mikey McD that many passes. How do you win this game if you're Mike McDaniel? You either teach Tyler Huntley the offense in over the bye week, or you just give the ball to Achane 20 times and you hope he breaks 2. Right? That's it. That's all you can do. Yeah. So Achane, I'm super interested in this week, and I'll if I do 5 single entry teams, he'll be on at least one of them.
All right. I mean, I can certainly get behind that.
There we go. Detroit, Minnesota. This, I suppose this is the bonanza that people are way more into this game than they are into the game that we spent forever talking about, the Texans and the Packers. I'll be real with you. I'm a little bit concerned that this is the Sam Darnold gets found out game. I'm a little concerned that this is the LOL, the Vikings were 5-0. LOL, remember when Sam Darnold was the quarterback 1 with the Panthers for 3 weeks and then it all went to shit? I'm a little bit concerned.
Wager on the Detroit Lions in this game. Like, I thought the Vikings were favored and I went, that's incorrect. Like, that's not how this should go.
I mean, based on what they have put on the field, the Vikings are certainly, I think based on what they put on the field, the Vikings are the better team. But that relies on believing that the Sam Darnold who has played 5-0 football is a 5-0 quarterback, and basically mementoing yourself into not you delete all the notes from the preceding 6 years of his career. That those tattoos get erased. You're totally unaware of those elements of his career. Aaron Jones, very strong play. Justin Jefferson, very strong play. Darnold doubles, Goff doubles. Do we know if Hawkinson is playing this week? It's unclear to me.
Sorry, who's playing?
TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, sounds like no, but I'm unclear. But it sounds like it's probably like 80-20 no.
I like Darnold more with Hawkinson. Obviously, just it's another weapon to utilize. I mean, the other thing, if we really want to zoom out from like a 10,000 foot view, is this game could just be ruined by both the defenses being pretty good and the quarterbacks kind of being the type of guys who don't do super well against creative blitzes, of which both of these defenses are very good at. Although we'll kind of see what happens with the Lions defense without. But, the other thing is like Dan Campbell like lives for this shit. You're telling me Dan Campbell is not like taking this as a personal challenge? Like, how do I make Sam Darnold's life hell without Aiden Hutchinson in the lineup? He's pondering it more and more all the time. This could be an all-time rug pull game. Like, this game could end 17-10 so fucking easy.
Yeah, the fear spot that I have in this game is Jared Goff, Brian Flores. Like Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator, I think, most well suited to find ways to get around this impenetrable Detroit Lions O-line. And if he can find a way to put Jared Goff under pressure, we have seen Jared Goff turn back into a pumpkin at times in those
many
scenarios.
times. And then he unpumpkins. It's crazy. He'll pumpkin and then he unpumpkins. It's really it's
Exactly.
incredible.
So I think it's like 30% chance we see Jared Goof in this game. And if not, then I think the Lions can come away and win this spot. But this is also a little bit similar, I think, to the other spot where there's a side you want to get ahead, and that side is the Vikings. The Vikings have been an interesting team this year where they actually do pass a lot early. Once they get ahead, then they will go to the run, and they've just gotten ahead a lot. But I also think this is the kind of team, Kevin O'Connell is going to be the type of play caller where he's going to look at the Lions, sees a massive pass funnel that's even gotten more extreme, I think, without Aiden Hutchinson, now that their pass rush has been really diminished. You can't really run on the Lions. He's coming with an injured running back. I think they're going to come out very pass-heavy early on, and I think if they stay reasonably pass-heavy unless they're up by multiple touchdowns. And then the Lions are really the most extreme example of the opposite, where they are going to come out run-heavy always. They always come out run-heavy on that first drive with David Montgomery. But if they fall behind, they're willing to pass it. They're willing to throw the ball all over the lot. If they stay ahead, they don't care. Like, they have one of the biggest ranges. Goff could have 56 attempts in this game. He could have 16 attempts in this game. So I think you hope two pass funnel defenses playing against each other. Vikings get a little bit of an early lead. Lions get pushed. I think that's the path to getting that bonanza spot. But if you had to play one game stack of this game, what would be your game stack?
Darnold, Jefferson, Addison, for sure. Because in the event where this game does what the total implies and what ownership is going to imply, Darnold probably runs a little bit. Darnold probably adds a little bit of he adds a little bit of rushing production, and it also just means that Darnold has played well. Everything, the crutch of this entire game is like second half Jets game in London. Darnold is not the real thing. He was injured. He had to have been injured in that sample. That's that. I don't know. It's like, dude, honestly, the Vikings could be fucking 19-0, 18-0 going into the Super Bowl against I don't know, the Ravens, let's call it. And I'd still be like, dude, Darnold could turn back into Darnold at any point. Like, it's like there's not really anything he could do to get me to trust him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a kind of a spot between similar quarterbacks. Obviously, Jared Goff has earned more of our trust than Darnold, but I think there's totally a world where Darnold isn't definitively, scam Darnold or good Darnold. And it's just like he is a flawed quarterback who is talented.
Like Goff. If he could totally reinvent himself.
It's going to be Goff, where he's going to have games that he pumpkins and he's going to have games that he unpumpkins, I think. Not unlike, Purdy's been, I think, better this year, but not unlike Purdy even last year, where there was a couple of games last year where you were like, Brock Purdy, what the hell was that? And then the next week he was back to doing his normal 11 yards per attempt stuff. So I think we'll see some bad games from Darnold. We've still seen the inaccuracy show up at times, but I do think he's talented enough and in such a good environment that he'll be able to bounce back from that and put up fantasy points the very next week. I think this is a good spot. So I agree with you. It would be Darnold, Addison, Jefferson. I'm kind of shocked that Jefferson projected ownership this week. I think it's probably just because salary is tight, where it's going to be hard to get an $8,500 spend. But if that's anything close to true, even if it's like 20 in some of the smaller field contests that I'll be playing in, that if that comes in like substantially less than Lamb was last weekend, then it's a jam because I feel better about Jefferson in this spot than I did Lamb in the same spot last week. And if it's also lower ownership, then that's like lock button zone for me.
Ownership is always a function of salary. He's the most expensive skill position player of the slate. Your value options are like Juju Smith-Schuster, Grant Calcaterra, Trey Tucker, Titans defense, Giants defense, and you probably have to play like 3 of those salary relief options to get a lineup in with Jefferson. Like here, let me just click lock on Jefferson and I'll exclude St. Brown and click the optimize real quick. There you go. You get Tyler Huntley and a double tight end lineup when you do that.
Hey, I was making the case for Tyler Huntley a little earlier. Yeah, the issue is going to be like my desire to play Justin Jefferson and my desire to play the Houston Green Bay game are both very strong, and it's impossible to do both of those things pretty much. So I will have to figure out which desire is stronger by Sunday morning.
There are 2 wolves inside you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Aaron Jones, good play. Aaron Jones, good play. Little bit concerned about a 29-year-old running back who's missed like half of his career with hamstring injuries, coming back and playing on a hamstring injury that's still bothering him from a game 2 weeks ago. But the projections don't seem concerned about it. Ownership doesn't seem concerned about it. Do with that what you will. The Philadelphia Eagles traveling to play at the New Yorking Football Giants. Andrew Thomas.
Barkley.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas out for this game. Not great for Jalen Neighbors. Not great for Malik Neighbors. Whatever the Barkley ownership projects at, add 10% to that based on people knowing that he used to play. Hand building bro, phone shitter bro, that guy would so much rather play Saquon Barkley than Justin Jefferson. It's not even close how much rather he would do that.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, because Nick Sirianni is like, he's a clown, but he's like definitely the type of coach who cares about that kind of shit.
100%. Yes.
Especially if they get up in this game, which seems reasonably likely. The entirety of the fourth quarter will be, how do we get Saquon Barkley touchdowns, right? So this is the week that I don't think the tush push applies. Like if they're down at the 1 yard line this week, it's going to be a handoff to Saquon Barkley. It's not going to be a tush push in his revenge game against the New York Football Giants. So I think it's a meaningful thing. Barkley should be more popular than that ownership is. Will be more popular than that ownership is. Is there anyone else that you're playing? Potentially Malik Neighbors. And then do you have a take on how this new Giants backfield might look if both backs are active?
Yeah, I mean, if they were like cheaper, I'd be interested, but they're just too expensive. So
I'm with you on that. I think
my take is that desperation is the mother of necessity. And when you're Brian Dable and you're staring down the record of losing like another lost season without your left tackle, you're like, Devin Singletary, thank you for always showing up to work with your lunch pail, but Tyrone Tracy is just better than you. Like he just adds more. A very Chase Brown, Zach Moss dichotomy where like the Bengals might have well planned on Zach Moss being their starter all year, but they're 2-4 and they want to make the playoffs. And there just is not room to have a bunch of runs for 2.5 yards when you could have runs for 12.5 yards. The other thing I would say is like anytime, just like AJ Brown is probably the fourth best wide receiver in the NFL. And he is totally unowned and probably smashes because he's AJ Brown.
Yeah. Always in play. Anytime AJ Brown is kind of underowned in these spots. Literally made this play last week, so can't argue against it this week. That's for sure.
Correct. Okay. That I really got nothing there. A more interesting game, at least from the Rams perspective, the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to play at the Los Angeles Rams. Kyron as the Giga Chalk. Team total 18.5 for the Raiders, 25.5 for the Rams. What's your read on Cooper Kupp status this week? Do you think the Cooper Kupp plays?
I think probably, right? I'm like McVay said he was trending in the right direction. I don't know. I feel like 60-40 he plays, maybe something like that. This Kyron stuff is like, I get that projections work the way that projections work. And I get that he has the best role in fantasy. And I get that in a given vacuum week, maybe you would prefer to play Kyren Williams over Saquon Barkley because of the goal line stuff. If you think that I'm going to log into DraftKings and play Kyren Williams over Saquon Barkley, even at the same ownership when Barkley is playing against the New York Giants, absolutely fucking not. It's not going to happen. So I'll be playing probably enough Jefferson that I won't be playing either of those two running backs that much. But if I'm playing either of those two, it's Barkley every single time in the revenge game. Like, the way I would view it is like neither of these two really gets more than 2 to 3 receptions per game. Both of them get a ton of carries. Barkley, I would say, is the more explosive. Like, he's far more likely to break a 60-yard run than Kyren Williams is. The reason why Kyren Williams projects materially better is that he has such a better role inside the 5. And I just don't think that is true this week for revenge game-based factors. I think Barkley is going to get all those carries this week. So I think Barkley meaningfully should project better, even if algorithms are unprepared to take into account revenge game-based factors.
True. Also, the ownership is wrong on Kyren and on Barkley because it's literally not accounting for people just having that thought process. Like, I promise you, whatever ETR, rotogrinders, whatever they have for Kyren on Sunday morning, it's too high. Whatever they have for Barkley, it's too low. I promise you, beyond promising. Bowers, kind of hard to find a tight end projecting for 1 billion points at 3% owned. Again, this is the like if I'm making, so I do like a team in the SPY, team in the red zone, and then sometimes the $75 single entry. So amongst those teams, a minimum of one of them will be Bowers. I also forgot to mention Grant Calcaterra in the Eagles game.
Oh yeah,
I like him. Yeah. I like him more than Parkinson. Parkinson right now looks like the chalk tight end. I prefer Calcaterra to Parkinson.
And where does JT Sanders sit in that mix for you?
Below Calcaterra for sure. Calcaterra, I've said this on every show this week. People are getting sick of it, but basically it would be like Trey McBride on the Eagles if Trey McBride had to medically retire in college with concussions.
So he was originally a Sooner, right? And then he went elsewhere. Is that
correct? He was a 5-star recruit. He was a 5-star recruit. He should have been. He would have been probably a 2nd round pick had he not suffered the concussion and medically. I'm wrong. 4-star, but he was like everyone wanted to recruit him. He was like a Lincoln Riley guy. He was. We were robbed. We were robbed of Calcaterra. Like if Calcaterra was Jake Ferguson for the Cowboys, they maybe wouldn't be in. I think he can play. Basically, is the long story short.
Okay.
Yeah. He's had 2 games in his career where he's played over 50% of the snaps. He's got 4 targets in each of them, which is like basically what you would expect from a pretty cromulent receiving tight end. Anyways,
and he
Bowers
ran like all of the routes.
All of them
this past week. Like he was the very, very clear God replacement. You never know whether that fully translates.
Ran 3 routes the whole game.
Yeah, and like it's a little bit tough to know. Does that perfectly translate
game
when
to
you
game?
have a full week to prepare versus when you're just thrown in there? But I think there's a decent chance it does. Can I also just say no one has ever looked more different within 2 years than Grant Calcaterra? Like his combine photo, he had like flowing hair, had kind of a baby face, and now he looks like a plumber. Like he looks like he just showed up to.
That's Philly, baby. That's Philly. That's I mean, you go to Oklahoma, you go to SMU, and then you move to the Northeast, and you get a Carhartt jacket, and you learn how to grow some facial hair.
I think this is how he convinced his team that he can block, because he now, like, his headshot now looks like a blocking tight end. His previous headshot looked like a receiving tight end, but if he can be a receiving tight end with the headshot of a blocking tight end, that has value, and that's the kind of analysis you get on this show.
Beautiful. Is there any? Oh, I mean, I guess Whittington, if Kupp doesn't play, is very strong. Yeah. If Kupp does play, he's unplayable. Hope that helps.
Certainly.
All right.
Agreed.
I don't know. One of these games, I can't decide. Houston, Green Bay, Seattle, Atlanta, Minnesota, Detroit, and Carolina Commanders. Those are the fantasy
This one's going to
bonanza
get the
games.
most owned, I think, just because there's so much salary savings. On
There's so much salary. Yeah, you've got Hubbard, who's awesome. You've got Johnson, who's awesome. You've got McLaurin, who's pretty good. Brian Robinson Jr., Ertz, Leggett, and Daniels is in every out. I just before we started, I ran the solver. I ran 300 solver lineups, so just raw projections, and Jane Daniels was in 98% of the top optimals. So
maybe that's
Jane
the
Daniels
ownership projection is too low.
yeah, he's gonna get super owned. Yeah.
The other interesting piece in this game, I'm surprised he's not projecting for more right now, but maybe that changes through the week. Jalen Coker ran 75% of routes last week.
Didn't Leggett get banged up in that game, though? Am I making that up?
No, he did not. Leggett got banged up 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And that's when Coker came in. Last week, Leggett came back. He himself ran 77% of routes. And they just said, Jonathan Mingo, enough from you. And they benched him. And they played Coker, Leggett, and Deontay Johnson. Jonathan Mingo only ran 33% of the routes last week, taking equally from Leggett and Coker. So I think you can pretty comfortably project Coker for 70 to 80% route rate this week in a game against Washington, where everybody needs to save salary. Like I'll play 3K Coker to get me up into being able to play Jefferson, Barkley, Kyron Williams, all those types of guys, spending up for Jaden Daniels. Like I think he's totally viable this week.
I agree. I mean, you could tell me almost any permutation of things in this game. You could tell me this is the Andy Dalton rug pulled over and Bryce Young comes back in again. You could tell me Noah Brown has 6 receptions for 118 yards and a touchdown. You could tell me Zach Ertz has 11 targets for 2 receptions and 17 yards. That one just feels like that's just going to happen. Like we just know. You could tell me Brian Robinson Jr. rushes for 4 touchdowns in this game, and I think I would probably believe you. Yeah, I mean, I just like the question I've got for you is like, so okay, let's play Daniels. Do you do it naked? Do you do it with McLaurin? Do you do it with Noah Brown? Do you do it with Ertz? What's your strategy there?
This spot, well, yeah, I mean, it's tough to do it with McLaurin just because of how high the combinatorial ownership is going to be on that. So, like, I don't think you can, like, if you play Daniels, McLaurin with one of Deontay or Hubbard, you're just in the same spot as so many other folks that are doing that exact same lineup that then have the exact same amount of salary as you do. Because even if even if Hatfield's playing Deontay instead of Chuba or Chuba instead of Deontay, they're the exact same salary. So I think if you do that, you have to be willing to get very weird elsewhere, or you go Daniels with like Noah Brown or something, which I think is something I'd probably do just to get some salary savings on it. Or Ertz, I guess, but I don't like playing Zach Ertz. It's a tricky spot because I do think
top 5 tight end
guy.
and expected points, by the way, Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
The libs do not want to admit that you can get by at the tight end position with grit alone. They don't want to admit it.
I'm so tired of Zach Ertz. But good news, I suppose, for your big board teams. Zach Ertz is clipping along.
I mean, he's really keeping them alive. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the struggle with Jaden Daniels all years. Every time he gets in these high owned spots, it's like, even if you want to play him, if you play him naked, you have issues because now you need to get other things right. I guess maybe what I'll land on by the end of the week is you play Jaden Daniels naked. You play Coker from Carolina to get the salary down. And then you just stack up either Texans, Packers, or Lions, Vikings without their quarterback. And you just say Daniels is going to get 40. And so he's going to reach a higher ceiling than like Goff or Darnold are physically able to. But now I'll play all of the fun pieces of that game with Daniels. I'll save the salary with Coker. I think that's maybe what I'm going to get on.
I probably prefer. Well, Noah Brown. No, that's my take. That's my flag plan here.
Yeah.
Is Noah Brown. You don't see this happen with like legitimate castaway players like Noah Brown all that often, but he misses 2 weeks ago with an injury, comes back from the injury, and then immediately runs 80% of the routes over Dyami Brown and Luke McCaffrey. So that tells me that probably they don't care that much about Noah Brown, but probably the coaching staff is like, Jesus Christ, Dyami Brown is terrible. God damn,
Yeah.
do we not want to play Dyami Brown? So Daniels, Dyami, Daniels and Noah Brown, I think is pretty good. I prefer Hubbard over Deontay. Maybe famous last words, but I mean Deontay is a good play too. But I do. Hubbard just gets there every week. There just is nothing stopping this man from getting there.
It's true. It's absolutely true. It is incredible that the Carolina Panthers were the most inept team in football for the first 2 weeks, and now every single week
Every
they
slate
have two players that they will only price up by about $100 more each week, and are 20% owned every single time we log into DraftKings.
I mean, shout out to them for doing the Andy Dalton thing, and
so great.
Yeah. Wish
Like
he was
one
a
of
Dolphin.
the like 8 most fun teams for fantasy football since going to Andy Dalton.
Which is so like think about like our old thoughts of Andy Dalton. Like late stage Bengals Andy Dalton was like one of the saddest. It was so bad. It was like unwatchable slop.
We were begging the Bears. We were making fun of the Bears for starting Andy Dalton instead of Justin Fields. Turns out,
yeah, real Windhorst ass situation there. All right, Super Bowl rematch, final game of the week. The Kansas City Chiefs travel on the road to play the San Francisco 49ers. Jordan Mason, I think a legitimate Q. He's limited practice all week. My read is that he plays. My read is that he will play in this game. But my read is that the Deebo Samuel package has never been bigger for a couple reasons. The first being, you don't want Mason to get too many touches in this game if he is playing with a shoulder injury. The other reason being the Jordan Mason replaces 80% of CMC's rushing production. Like we might have crossed the Rubicon there. Like he's just not, he's a fine player. He's not a great player. I don't know. What's your read on the
I think he's pretty darn good.
Stuff?
I think he's quite good. I think if he plays, especially in a game that's going to be likely competitive, I think he's going to see his normal workload, or I just think he won't play. The Garendo stuff, like I know there was a lot of positive quotes about him, but
no, they don't trust him at all.
He did not look good. Like he looked blind for the first 9 carries. He turned them into 23 yards in a smash matchup, and then he got loose on a 76-yard run in a spot where an 11-yard run was the same as a 76-yard run to the Seattle Seahawks. And you see that all the time where it's like the Seattle Seahawks are trying to stop him at the line of scrimmage. And once he's past the line of scrimmage, there's nobody else back there. Good for him. But he ends up having under 50% of the total touches because they're giving some to Deebo. They're giving some to Patrick Taylor. They're giving some to Juszczyk. So I think it's Mason's season if he gets in there. Whether I want to play him against the Chiefs at 7,600 is a different story. I'm not convinced of that. It's not that far off from Barkley and Kyron, and they just project like way better floors and way higher ceilings. So,
yeah, but
probably not going to
get fucking 3% owned on this guy, man. I don't know. I'm pretty
it's totally
tempted.
A viable play. It's very, very viable. The one guy I wouldn't play in the spot, and like I get that the projection is going to be okay on him, but I think it's just a thing now that the Chiefs don't really give up any production to outside wide receivers. And we've seen this year with Snead gone, he's like horrible on the Tennessee Titans. And yet the Chiefs secondary has been marching along unencumbered by opposing teams' boundary wide receiver ones. So I think it's a Spags system thing that they have going on. I think Ayuk is going to have like 2 catches in this game. So if you want to play the 49ers, I'd be looking primarily at George Kittle. I'd be looking at Deebo Samuel. And I'd be maybe looking at Jordan Mason.
So, as a Chiefs fan, let me tell you my deep-seated fear.
Okay.
This is the game that all the bullshit stops. That Andy Reid making the offense work out of fucking paper clips and duct tape. They can't score. The 49ers, they're out for revenge. They are the little brother to the Chiefs' bigger brother. They cannot get one over on this team. This is the 49ers Super Bowl, basically. Not that they're not a Super Bowl contender, but they would. Everyone in that building would love to win this game, 38-10. My concern is that this becomes that the Chiefs basically can't get anything going on offense. The 49ers defensive staff is just like, you're going to try and beat us with Juju Smith-Schuster playing the Rashee Rice role and Kareem Hunt. Mahomes is not throwing down the field. We're putting 9 guys in the box. And if you want to throw deep balls to Xavier Worthy, have at it. You know, Mahomes is like, I saw a great post from Kevin Cole yesterday that Mahomes every year of his career and his adjusted efficiency stuff has been one of the 3 best players in the league. Like, and I trust Kevin's math and process a good little bit. He's 19th amongst quarterbacks in Kevin's adjusted efficiency stuff this year. Seems bad. It's obviously, it's very hard for me to be unbiased and think rationally through a Kansas City Chiefs game. Like, I'm not, I think in my heart of hearts, I actually think the Chiefs probably win this game 20-17. Like, that is the most likely scenario to me. But there's definitely a scenario where Purdy throws 4 touchdowns. Mason has 110 rushing yards. Like, this is the Christmas Day Raiders game. The Christmas Day Raiders game last year, where like basically they just like nothing worked. They just kept turning the ball over. They couldn't get a first down. They couldn't complete a pass. And if you have the Christmas Day Raiders game against the 49ers, it's not going to be Aiden O'Connell on the other side. They're going to score a lot of points against you. I don't know. What just like kind of what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that the Chiefs have done has been inspiring. And I do think that in these Super Bowl rematches, like the team that lost is likely to be the more motivated party, right? They're the one that comes in with something to prove. Think back to the Eagles last year in Arrowhead and how badly they wanted to win that game and how much of a loser Nick Sirianni made himself as he was screaming at Chiefs fans through the tunnel. Don't think Kyle Shanahan will debase himself to that level of emotional immaturity, but I do think that he is going to have some trick plays that he has been saving in his bag for this particular game that he wants to win to go put his stamp on things. And the Chiefs will participate in this game, but like, I don't think that they're going to be at the same level of like, we need to pull out all the stops. Like, nothing about this season has said they need to pull out any stops. They don't give a fuck.
No, there's literally the Chiefs have never seen a stop sign. You think Andy Reid? No. So that's a very good point. This game might as well be a fucking preseason scrimmage against the Shanghai Sharks. Like literally, these dudes do not care.
So I think the 49ers could win this game. Borderline easily, I think. I picked the 49ers.
Yes, but borderline. Mahomes throws his traditional bad interception in the first half. Taylor Swift's probably too scared to go to San Francisco. It's probably too grimy of a city for her, so she's not there. Yeah, we
play Juju, or do you not hate yourself that much?
No, he's a good play, man.
Some savings.
He's a good play. He really is. Like the projections are actually too low on him. Like 10 points, dude. No, he. I mean, the dude legit. He just ran Rashi's routes, like straight up, and it worked. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like Fred Warner will probably give him more of issues than whatever linebacker the Saints have, but like, I don't know, like. So much of it isn't even routes, right? He just kind of like ambles like this out of the slot, and he just turns around and they just give him the ball, and it's like, all right, there's 1.8.
This iteration of the Chiefs offense, the thing that is most valuable for fantasy is knowing where to go when Mahomes gets out of the pocket, because every play getting out of the pocket. And Worthy has been his teammate for like 5 months. He doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't
know anything.
Juju knows where to go.
Worthy is a child. Worthy is 9 years younger than Juju Smith-Schuster. Like he just is not. He's not ready for this, man. I actually am kind of encouraged by him because he does seem just very good, but he just doesn't know anything yet. He knows no tricks of the trade at all.
Yep.
All I got.
Definitely inclined to agree. I think probably the only people I'll play. I don't think I'm going to stack this game. Like, I don't think that I'll get to Purdy, although you could. But I think I'll play Kittle. I think I'll play Debo, and then I'll probably only play Juju from the Chiefs side, to be honest.
I mean, Debo is if this ownership comes through, generational, truly, because he's got so many outs, and just like your life adage should be Debo Samuel under 10% owned in 100% of your lineups. Just like it's just pretty that it's that simple.
Especially like if Mason doesn't play, Debo's ownership will go up. But your best case scenario is if Mason, I think, does play, but then it turns out he's kind of limited. And then the projections just aren't accounting for how much rushing work Debo's going to get. Because I do think in this spot, especially if Mason is active, like they want to win this game. They're not going to be fucking around with that much Isaac Garendo. I think if Mason plays and he's somewhat limited, it's like, all right, Mason, how much of the running work can you handle? Oh, you can handle 60% of the rushing work? Okay, Debo, you get 40% of the rushing work. Like that. That's kind of how I see the game plan going in this one.
I agree. All right, man. Let's build ourselves a lineup. And you can have the first selection. You can have whoever you want.
All right. I will select Nathaniel Tank Dell.
I always forget that is his name. All right. Let's do on this one. Let's do Jordan Love then. Let's do Jordan Love, and you can choose whichever one of his stacking partners that you like.
All right. We might even end up overstacking this game because I think we could add more on with the tight end from either side. But I'll start this off. Salary flexibility, big play upside. Let's do Christian Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I think Watson, particularly if Wicks is going to be limited or not playing, Watson is probably the most appealing one because he, in the games that he gets there, obviously he is the most useful for daily fantasy sports contests. I will save us even more salary, and I will do receiving tight end that looks like a blocking tight end, Grant Calcaterra.
Nice. All right. We've now saved some salary, so let's see if we can jam this. I will select Mr. Saquon Barkley.
All right, there we go. We are phone shitter broing. We are playing Saquon Barkley. We have a good amount of salary left. I will do our cheap defense. So there are actually, we don't normally talk about defense. There are actually like a bazillion ways to go here. You have the Browns.
All the bad defenses are playing against
bad teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think the Titans are good. I think the Giants are good. The Giants are probably best just conceptually because
Saquon and Calcaterra, I don't think is a
great you're right. You're right. So let's do on this one. Let's just do the Titans on this one. They're the absolute cheapest. They're a good defense. We just need like
Josh
two
Allen
boneheaded Josh Allen plays. Yeah.
He loves playing with his food against inferior teams. Like there's nothing he loves more than throwing a ridiculous interception, trying a Harlem Globetrotters trick play against
correct.
A team
That's you're making some very convincing points. That's very true.
Right. Oh, it's back to me, right? Because you just picked
the
defense. How much have we got here? $6K per?
$6K per for a running back, wide receiver, and a flex.
All right. So I will take Jaden Reed here to close out our double stack.
All right. We can do Jaden Reed. So we're going to have to punt in flex. We're probably going to have to play like Noah Brown or Trey Tucker or a tight end or something. Let's see. How much do we have left if we do Hubbard? We have 4,300 left. So that leaves you any of the punt wide receivers. Basically, that leaves you Trey Tucker, Juju, David Njoku, Noah Brown.
All right. I will select. Well, we played Chuba, so we may as well do the bring back, I guess. So we can do Noah Brown.
There we go. Noah Brown. Noah Brown I think he's a pretty good play. So the lineup
he's like kind of a decent player.
No 100-yard game since high school, then had 2 with CJ Stroud. Very interesting. Very interesting for Noah Brown. Jordan Love, Saquon Barkley, Chuba Hubbard, Tank Dell, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Grant Calcaterra, Noah Brown, and the Titans defense. You have 300 left there. So there are plenty of other ways that you could go with that. Jacob, that is going to wrap us up, and we need to do the Gold Star plays. I know who mine is going to be. Do you know who your Gold Star play is going to be?
Yes, I do.
Have at it. Hit me.
All right, my Gold Star play this week, Christian Watson. In the game that I'm most excited to stack, he's going to get potentially, as you had just said earlier, a limited or potentially out Dontavian Wicks. I think even if Wicks is out, I would be surprised if his ownership gets higher than like 10 to 12%, just given how volatile his role is. Love everything about the game environment here in this spot. He's the guy that has that potential to really contribute to a game stack by getting a 70-yard touchdown, getting the whole pace of this thing up. Excited to get into this game, and I think he's going to be my favorite way to play it. I'm going to either play him with Love or as bring back.
I love it. I love that yours is part of a stack. Mine is going to be one Mr. Deebo Samuel. He just falls in a very weird salary range. If Justin Jefferson was lower owned, like if I really thought Justin Jefferson was going to be 8% or something, it would be Justin Jefferson. But I set my line at like 10%. So I'm going $7,000 Deebo Samuel is my Gold Star play this week. But I refer the right, if Jefferson comes in at 9.9% owned, to say that Justin Jefferson was in fact my Gold Star play. That is going to do it for us here. Everyone, make sure that you are subscribed to Thinking About Thinking. Please click a like on this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please comment. Tell us if you are playing the Gold Star play. Tell us if you liked this with the Friday information more. It's all good. Very good feedback from me. And we will, guys, we will see you back next week. So enjoy your